We're talking about the production possibilities model in this lesson, and the classic version of the production possibilities model is the comparison between two goods that a nation can produce, either guns or butter, and it must choose between these two goods. Now, famous people in history have used this analogy, including William Jennings Bryan, Margaret Thatcher, and even leaders in Nazi Germany. In fact, the song Guns Before Butter was written in 1979 by Gang of Four about this concept. The production possibilities model is a visual model of scarcity and efficiency. It simplifies the concept of how an economy can produce things, using only two goods as an example. It's going to show us all the production possibilities we have between these two goods. It takes the concept of opportunity cost, which we already explored, and helps us make the best economic decision we can make, which is to say, the most efficient decision. But there are some important assumptions that we need to talk about regarding the production possibilities model. So the question we're trying to answer is this: how much of each good should we produce in order to produce them in the most efficient way? For example, how many term papers and cookies should I make to get the most efficient combination? Or how much corn versus how much beef should country A produce to be the most efficient? That's where the production possibility model comes in. There are three important assumptions involved in using the production possibilities model. One, resources are used to maximize capacity. Very important. Two, resources are scarce. And three, technology remains completely constant. We're trying to use our resources to the fullest, but we only have limited or scarce resources. We're also assuming right now that the technology we use to produce our goods isn't changing at all. So what are we really saying? If you're producing the right combination of two goods, then you're using your resources efficiently. Why is this important? Because it reveals to us all the trade-offs of changing our production possibilities. We can pick any 2 points on a production possibility curve and explain the trade-offs or the opportunity cost of producing different combinations of these two goods. For example, if our economy is producing cars and computers only, then we can choose to produce many different combinations of cars and computers. Since our resources are scarce, we can't produce as much as we want. But we can produce, for example, 0 cars or 10 computers. We could choose instead to produce 5 cars and 0 computers. Why are these two numbers different? Because in this example, these two activities have different production rates. And when we compare the production rates, we can speak in terms of opportunity cost, like this. If we make 10 computers, we lose the opportunity to make 5 cars, and vice versa. By reducing this fraction down, we can say the opportunity cost of producing 1 car is 2 computers. As you can see, it takes more time and resources to produce a car than it does a computer. And the production possibilities model will show us this visually. Now, I just said that we could produce 0 cars and 10 computers, or 5 cars and 0 computers. But there are many other production possibilities in between these two that we could choose instead. With our finite resources, we could choose to produce 2 cars and 6 computers, or 4 cars and 2 computers. Then again, we could say 3 cars and 4 computers. When you account for all the possible combinations given the opportunity cost of 1 car equals 2 computers, you end up with a line like the one you see here in this simple example. Okay, time out. I want to clarify something important. Although the production possibilities model shows a straight line in this example, in the real world, the production possibilities model is a curve. As you produce more and more of one good instead of another, the opportunity costs will increase because some of the resources in an economy are only capable of producing one type of good, which means that switching from one good to another will increase costs. And the more you switch from one good to another, the more expensive it gets. We call this the law of increasing opportunity costs, but some people call it the law of diminishing returns, which is the same thing. For example, if an economy is producing some combination of cars and computers, and it wants to produce more cars, it'll have to give up the opportunity to produce some computers, right? Well, what happens is that each time they choose to produce additional cars, they don't get the same benefit. They don't get the same return for making that decision. Because expanding your equipment so you can make more cars instead of computers becomes more and more difficult and expensive as you continue to do it. The result is that they give up more and more computers each time they add additional cars, which means opportunity cost is increasing. As you move from one side of the curve towards the other, this dynamic of increasing opportunity cost or diminishing returns continues to happen. And it continues to happen until you reach a point somewhere in the middle where there is no benefit in producing more of one good and less of another. So this is why the production possibilities curve is bowed outwards. Its bowed outwards are shaped like a curve because of the law of increasing opportunity costs. Here are some facts that we know to be true about all production possibility curves. One is that any point outside the curve is not attainable. Any point outside of the curve is not a production possibility because our resources are scarce, which means we have a capacity that we won't be able to go over, a limit we can't exceed. It's our barrier of production. The other fact we know is that any point inside the production possibility curve is possible, but it's not efficient. The curve itself is an efficiency curve, which means it's showing us all the ways we can simultaneously produce two goods efficiently. That means any point that's inside the curve is not using all of our resources. So if we chose to produce one car and two computers, then we're producing less than our capacity. We have the resources to produce more stuff, but we chose not to. To review, any point outside the curve is not possible, and points inside the curve are possible but not efficient. When you're a business or a firm and you're trying to maximize your profit, then you're very concerned about producing at your capacity so you can earn the greatest profit. If you're an individual, on the other hand, you may be concerned about maximizing your income, but you're also concerned about maximizing your time or perhaps your enjoyment. So why is the production possibility curve bowed outwards? To answer this, let's talk about what's happening when we make a move from one point on the curve to another. The curve represents the fact that there is an opportunity cost for every production possibility. If we want to switch from producing 0 cars to 1 car, we know that we could only produce 8 computers instead of 10. The opportunity cost of this switch is the value of what we gave up to get it, which in this case means we would have to give up the opportunity to produce 2 computers, or at least this is how we've been simplifying it. But in reality, it can cost a lot more to reallocate resources than simply handing over the metal that was meant for computers to the car manufacturer, particularly when we shift our resources toward making only cars or only computers. If we push to make much more of one product than the other, then production is less efficient and we have a higher opportunity cost.